I can send you the recording when it's done if you want it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be uploading it, that's good enough for me.
But wait a minute, Vadim. What if I edit you to make it sound like you were on the flight logs? Don't you want a receipt so that you can counter this disinformation?
On the flight logs, like on 9/11?
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about?
No, the Epstein flight logs.
Oh, okay, those. Yeah, that
So,
do wonders for my reputation.
So Vadim, you were on the Epstein flight logs, you were saying.
Yeah, I was on the Lolita Express, and it was a nonstop pleasure and a sheer sensation. There was excellent entertainment, and Jeffrey Epstein, not a bad guy. He's got some weird hang-ups, but he has excellent taste in 80s pop music.
Okay, I won't even have to maliciously edit you, so the recording won't help you at all. Hey, have you seen this new thing that everyone's talking about, transparency.tube?
No, I have not.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you about it in real time, and you're gonna react to it. Okay. So someone made a website called transparency.tube, and what it's done is it's taken all the YouTubers and it's classified them by politics. So every channel has these little political labels attached to it, and you are on it. Creationist Cat is on this website, and I'm looking at your entry right now. Would you like to hear your
is there a
your
blur?
Political pronouns? There is. You have your political pronouns. You want to hear them? I'm gonna read them to you one by one. You can react to them. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Left.
True.
Yeah. True. Anti-theist.
I guess. I mean, that term means different things to different people. Like in a certain respect, I am an anti-theist in that I think the world would be better overall if people were not religious. Yet at the same time, I'm not anti-theist in that I recognize that we're probably. I mean, if that's ever going to happen, we're probably centuries away from anything like that occurring. I don't know. Maybe if the what do they call it? That you know what I'm talking about, that a thing that's supposed to happen where technology,
the singularity.
Yes, if the singularity occurs, perhaps we'll either all be like atheists, or maybe the singularity will broaden our understanding, and we'll realize there is a God. But yeah, I mean,
so that's a maybe. That's a hard maybe.
See, I mean, this is the last thing that I have to say on it. Some people use anti-theist, and they more or less mean like some people want to exclude religious people from leftist spaces, and that's something that I think is a huge mistake, because
that's a no-no.
I think that there's a lot of very great people who are theists, and there are people who certainly are smarter than anti-theists, or you know, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get your shit right if you're an atheist or an anti-theist. So yeah, I kind of, I don't know, I like people to define to me what they mean by anti-theist, and
which this website does not do, by the way. If you click on it, it doesn't have an explanation.
Right.
So I'm gonna put you down for a hard maybe for anti-theist.
Yeah, hard maybe sounds like a good way to go with that.
Okay, social justice.
Yeah, I guess so. Sure. I mean, that's another term.
It does not say social justice warrior. It says social
right. I almost don't mind the term social justice warrior, because it's just like this dopey pejorative that I you know, that at one point I was like, no, I'm not a social justice warrior, because it was just so foreboding to be that on YouTube, and like people may not recall, but there was a time where political / like I don't know, just the sphere of YouTube that I tend to inhabit, where that was largely a pejorative that could get you in trouble, and it did get me in trouble. But I've come to embrace.
Wait, social justice got you in trouble?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, have you ever seen there's an early Sean video where he is dissecting this ridiculous video that Kraut made, or Kraut and
I know
TV
of it. I don't think I've ever watched either of the videos, but I know of them.
Well, Sean's video is excellent, but one thing that people who watch the video probably don't realize is that video revolved around me. Like,
okay.
basically, it was, and Kraut and I are on better terms. Like, Kraut, funny enough, kind of had
the three of us were in a we're in a Discord chat once. It was pretty civil.
Yeah, no, I'm friends with the guy now.
That's the only time I've ever talked to him.
He apologized to me about that video, and I believe he apologized to everyone that was involved with that video. He like is not proud of it. And it was this video where he was talking about how the insidious social justice warriors, and how like they're like the worst thing on YouTube.
And you were one of these insidious social justice warriors?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is that at the time I was talking with him, like in friendly chats with him and this guy David Sherratt, who you may have heard of, as well.
You know that I am friends with.
Yeah. I think I knew that. And a bunch of a few other people, some of whom I'm not really that friendly with anymore. And it was a different time on YouTube, and like, I don't know. I mean, even though that Kraut at the time had these like associations with people, like for instance, what happens in the video, I guess I should say this, is that like he uses me as this pivot point, and he kind of he like says, like, basically, I mean, I don't think I'm paraphrasing, but I don't think I'm mischaracterizing what he's like, the feel of what he said. He was like, Vadim is secretly a social justice warrior, and he's friend. I mean, like he deduced this by, I mean, partially by the conversation.
We're really digging into the lore here.
Yeah, and he also saw that, like, me, kind of just being friendly with certain people on Twitter and whatnot, and he
those at the time, friendships can be vicious.
Yes, and at the time he was considered himself to be very good friends with Sargon of Akkad. And
how'd that turn out? I'm just kidding.
For him, it turned turned out pretty poorly.
It turned ugly. Turned very ugly.
Yeah, it did. And the funny thing is that, like, he said that in private conversations that we had, that I was trying to, he made me sound like I devised some devious plot, and that I was like, we must overthrow Sargon as the leader of YouTube. I mean, or some shit. I mean, seriously, like that's the way he makes it sound in the video. And really all it was that I was just frank in our conversations with these people. Like, yeah, I think he's a clown. I think he's horrible. And I'd already like dug into him a little bit in it, not as much as I proceeded to do in videos, but I had already.
By him, you mean Sargon?
Yes.
Carl Benjamin.
I had definitely fucked with him on Twitter and whatnot, and I actually had made.
You definitely fucked with him on the Epstein plane.
Yeah, too true, but yeah. So anyway, I guess that's a lot. We're getting the weeds here, but
we're into the weeds of Kraut servergate.
Yeah,
the biggest YouTube scandal of 2018.
Well, it was it was a big turning point. I mean, in the end, I suppose I'm glad that it happened, and it was probably just a matter of time. Probably someone else would have done something similar and whatnot. But it just so happens that I inhabited this space where I was like kind of a lefty, and it was kind of hell. This is pre-left tube. A lot of people don't realize that I mean, really, just in terms of like left-wing YouTubers, it was like conventional people like Lacey Green, who you can argue how much of a left tuber she really was, or is currently.
Well, she
Francesca,
barely even
I
is
mean,
on YouTube anymore.
I would say some people that kind of are still keeping it real, who were somewhat popular, were like Cat Black and what, but it wasn't this like this big kind of force, with the exception of you had channels and still have channels like TYT, Kyle Kolinsky, David Pacman, but I don't really count those. You didn't have people like it was right at the point where ContraPoints and Sean
Sure, yeah.
and all these people were starting to slowly gain popularity. And yeah, I'm the reason why Sean doesn't include me. There's two reasons. One is because he makes a lot of statements about me that he could not verify himself, and then two, he knew I was making a video about it myself, which I have since unlisted. But yeah, I won't go much more into that because I don't know if like this is probably going to be boring
Pretty
to
inside
most people.
baseball here. Pretty
Yeah.
inside baseball. There's one more label. We're 75% through the list. There's one more label.
The last thing that I'll say is that it actually is a little relevant to what we're talking about, because even though that I don't like wouldn't use this term necessarily, some people would say that I got canceled as a result of all of that. I mean, I lost.
I actually was thinking that while you were telling the story. It sounds like a good old fashioned canceling here, but
yeah, I lost when all was said and done. I mean, because a few other YouTubers, both Sargon and Bearing, made videos not too long after that, polished off about 12,000 of my viewers, lost a lot of money in Patreon, and I had a pretty
good old fashioned canceling.
Yeah, I
There's no
had
way around it. There's no way around it.
a huge I had a huge momentum with my channel that just kind of stalled for many years as a result. And I mean, we can get back to later possibly whether or not I look at that as a canceling. I suppose one can. But anyhow,
you were riding the great YouTube gold rush of 2014 to 2017, and then it came crashing down on you.
Yeah, except I was never making douchey videos.
I didn't say that. I just said that, like, back then, like there was gold in them our YouTube hills back then. Like you could make a lot of money really easily back then. And it resulted in a very bizarre culture that fascinates me and is a subject I'm quite interested in. But I just want to polish out the list. The final.
Well, what is the third?
No, that was the third. The fourth and final is partisan left. It calls you partisan left.
I mean, I guess that I'm partisan towards the left. Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, I question what that person meant when they said that, because
I left a comment on YouTube asking, or not YouTube, sorry, Twitter, asking what they mean by partisan left, because it's not, there's no, I can't, as far as I can tell, there's nowhere it's explained. What do you mean partisan left?
Yeah,
listen to this.
Because the thing is that can almost sound like you will be like on the left side no matter what, and you're not open to. Yeah. Okay. So
it also sounds like it's very like polemic, like, oh, the right are garbage. So you're a partisan leftist. ContraPoints is partisan left, and she produces almost no like partisan content, really. No content I would call partisan in any sense of the term. So it sort of confuses me. But then you've got I don't know, name a right wing YouTube shithead. Just your favorite one. Name one off the top of your head.
I wouldn't say he's my favorite, but Steven Crowder.
Okay, let's look up Crowder. Steven Crowder. Want to hear Steven Crowder's political pronouns?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right, anti-SJW. No partisan right. It doesn't say partisan on his pronouns. Name another one.
Okay, so now I'm starting to think that the people who made this are probably pretty right wing.
Well, see, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I want to be open to them explaining what they mean by partisan. But name another one, like right head.
Paul Joseph Watson.
Okay, PJW. No, sorry. The one weird thing about this site is that you have to spell everything out. Paul Joseph. Okay, Paul Joseph Watson. His pronouns are right, conspiracy, anti-SJW, and partisan right. So Paul Joseph Watson is a partisan.
Gosh, I don't know what the deciding factor for being partisan is, because
it doesn't explain it.
I don't know anything that would separate both Crowder and Paul Joseph Watson in that regard.
I completely agree. How about Tim Pool? Want to hear Tim Pool's political pronouns?
If they say he's a centrist, that's going to be hilarious.
Hold on to your beanie, Vadim. Tim Pool, right? Anti-SJW. No, so it doesn't say he's a centrist. We dodged that bullet, but no partisan. Tim, like, compare Tim Pool's content to your own. Like, do you ever even talk about like electoral politics or the Republicans, or like, I feel like there's very little of that on your channel. Whereas Tim Pool's every single video is like,
yeah, there are some things where it depends on the video where I delve into that a little.
But you don't have a video that's like Republicans launch attack, all capitals, on poor people and minorities. Like, you don't have that type of content.
No, I do not.
Everyone.
I'm glad they recognize that he's on the right. That's interesting.
Yes, Dave Rubin also on the right,
and not partisan, right?
No, hold on. Let me bring it up. Rubin report. Right, libertarian, anti-SJW. No partisan right. PragerU, huge YouTube channel. PragerU. Oh, it does say partisan right for PragerU. Another one I noticed.
I love it. Do they say libertarian for PragerU? I mean, I guess
yes, they do.
They do, yeah. It's just funny to me that that people who just whine about how the things like YouTube and Twitter are working against them, how they can still really call themselves a libertarian with a straight face. Because, of course, any true libertarian would just say, like, okay, it's the market doing, or maybe not the market, but it's private companies doing as they please, which I would agree with.
This was specifically the point of contention between PragerU and I think it was like the Ayn Rand Institute or something. Like, the Ayn Rand Institute like called Prager like a sellout for suing YouTube because they I don't know, didn't. What was the lawsuit over? They like didn't label their videos educational or something like that. Some weird shit like that.
Yeah, it's interesting how I've met some very strict Ayn Rand libertarians, and they can be simultaneously incredibly, in my opinion, like their ethics are just fucked, but yet at the same time they can be very principled and be ethical within their framework, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Did you ever read any Ayn Rand? I went through a whole Ayn Rand phase.
No, I didn't. I had a girlfriend who.
Oh man, shade. I just got burnt, man.
No, I had a girlfriend.
Just roasted there.
I had a girlfriend, and then I really, I've been meaning to. I'm still in touch with her. She was actually one of the smartest girls I've ever known. She's an epidemiologist and graduated from Harvard, and just really cool fucking girl. And I remember her telling me, I not that, but I don't know how into Randian philosophy she was. I just remember when we were dating, she was saying that, that she was attracted to John Galt types. And and like, that was actually the first time that I had heard about she was a fan of that book, but I think it was something that she had read in high school and hadn't revisited.
That's when you read Ayn Rand.
I mean, this girl was very like, this is well over 10 years ago, but she was pretty, I think she would be considered like social justice-y and she's very left wing. So I would bet that she has kind of like if I asked her, I mean, because another thing is that she swore that she would never get married and have kids, and she's now married and has kids. So
that lying idiot.
Yeah. So Yeah, I have a feeling she would kind of say like, yeah, I kind of realize she sucks in terms of Ayn Rand. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's interesting. I did not know that site exists.
I just found out about it just like an hour ago. Yeah, it's a fun site to play with. So you want to talk about this your new video that we wanted to talk about?
Sure, yeah, just so those who are listening know what we're discussing. It's a video called an all-star left tube salute to cancel culture, and it's not really a salute to cancel culture, but that's sort of the joke, because I guess I named it that because in my opinion the right kind of tries to make the left look like they are kind of the sole proprietors of, if you will, or just the driving force of cancel culture, and they act like it's something that they just never do, and they just love it, they're all about it. So I kind of tried to take that idea, or that like kind of misconception, and run with it, and it's sort of an inside joke, I guess you could say.
Wait, what's the? Just.
I guess it's not an inside joke.
You're pretending it's a salute, but it's not really.
It's not an inside joke. It's I'm being facetious.
Right, got it. You're being yes, yeah. You're being facetious. So basically, like it's a video that sort of attempts to flip the script on cancel culture and be like, well, Mr. Viewer, you've heard that cancel culture is a problem on the left, but guess what? I'm going to blow your mind because it's actually on the right. Would that be fair?
Yeah. It's both that, and then in some ways it's a kind of taking the piss out of certain people. Because see, the thing is that we have to throw out there. There's two things I want to throw out in the beginning of this conversation. One is that, and I say this exactly in the video, cancel culture means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So there are certain people who I think critique it in a very fair and genuine, or just a way that hits me as corresponding with reality. And then there are people who kind of are alarmists about it, or are at least alarmists about ridiculous aspects of what they call cancel culture.
Give me a ridiculous alarmist example.
I mean, this isn't, maybe I'm just popping into my head. I think that often, not always, but often when you're talking about celebrity quote unquote cancelings, like for instance, like someone like Dave Chappelle. I like Dave Chappelle's literally literally my favorite stand-up comic of all time, and I will say I did not see the particular special that people got pissed off at. I saw some of the jokes that he did in that, and I thought that they were pretty lame. And I could totally like I think he deserved criticism for them. But the idea that this guy who is still getting paid, I mean, I think he's literally, I could be wrong, I think he's literally the most successful, biggest.
I've heard that about him as well.
It's either him or Jerry Seinfeld. Are literally the richest or most successful current comedians right now.
There were no consequences. Like everyone's talking about Dave Chappelle being canceled, and there's zero. I can't identify a single consequence about anything that he suffered.
Yeah, and then another
that Chris Pratt one.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it.
Nothing.
Yeah,
it was nothing.
Yeah,
nothing happened.
Yeah,
but apparently he's a victim of cancel culture.
That's the thing.
It's infuriating.
It's like maybe sometimes with some of these situations, and again, I can't speak for the Chris Pratt thing, but maybe sometimes there are these overreactions with celebrities. Maybe they deserve a little bit of shit and they get way more shit than they deserved, or maybe they didn't deserve it. But more often than not, there are exceptions. These people are just they're they're in. They're not getting out. Of like,
I mean, once you're J.K. Rowling and you're a billionaire, I don't really know what can really happen to you at that point. J.K. Rowling's got a steady stream of Harry Potter residuals coming into her since long after she's dead. I just don't see what. Yeah. But I mean, that's not to say that you can't suffer consequences if you're a millionaire or you're a celebrity. I mean, if someone were to falsely accuse you of crimes, I would agree that that's out of line.
I mean, I like, on one hand with J.K. Rowling, I mean, I do agree with all of the people who are quote unquote canceling her and like I mean, don't get me wrong, if somebody is like in her mentions and like saying like, oh, you know, I want to you know, slit your throat, or I don't know, I don't want to get too graphic here, but you know, just basically threatening her life and shit, I'm not down with that. Like, I think that that's taking it too far.
There were apparently book reviews that just said things about that new book that are apparently just factually incorrect. Like the killer of the book is not a cross-dressing man. Apparently, it's just a side character.
Well, you know what? I've heard, I heard that, and then I saw a pretty in-depth. That there's a trans YouTuber who read the whole book.
I think I've seen this.
And,
wait.
And,
no. I saw a video that referenced that video.
And I watched that
video. It's a trans woman video, right?
And yeah, and they make more.
But they agreed that the killer was not there's a portrait of a cross-dressing person in it that is transphobic, but they're not the killer of the book. So, but what I'm saying is there were major like media outlets that reported that was the killer.
It's still like, I think they make a very good argument that the book itself is transphobic. It's also
I think they do too.
It's also fucking weird. I just don't get why she would name her. I mean, you've probably heard this. Her pen name is the name of the guy who created. I think it's. Who pioneered quote unquote gay conversion therapy.
So I did not know that.
Yeah, so I don't know what's up with that, because I've never thought of her as being like you know, homophobic. She you know, like
that's very strange.
It's very strange. And so
there's a point I want to make about celebrity cancel culture though, and that is this. One of the reasons I started to care so much about cancel culture and talk about it so much is because I realized that the narrative was dominated by stories like this. And I'm like, I'm hearing all these stories about regular people getting canceled. Jacobin ran a story about this. I'm seeing like actual people suffer real consequences. Why is this the focus? And then I look over at the left, and people like AOC are declaring cancel culture is not real. Well, no wonder we lost the narrative then. We just handed it over to them. We gave the whole thing up. We handed it right over to them. So we have ourselves to blame here for the framing.
Yes,
and I find that really frustrating.
Yes and no. I mean, again, sort of like it's like once again, I go back to the fact that everyone has different concepts of what it is and what it means.
It's an amorphous term. It's a term that gets
it is an amorphous term, and it's like one can argue that that like I think I say this in the video. You know, I'm not trying to be an apologist for what I think exactly what I say is, look, you know, I'm not saying that there aren't times that, you know, say that, oh God, I'm paraphrasing myself very poorly here, but something to the effect of, I'm not trying to be an apologist for when the internet works as like a mob and you know,
for when people get hurt.
For when people get hurt, for lack of a better way of putting it. I don't have a, you know, a fucking what is the term? Photographic memory. Photographic memory. But yeah, when I say that, what I really meant to say, perhaps I should have stated it, is that I meant from the left or the right when I said that. And so, you know, I look at it, I don't know, that there's a lot of aspects of it. It's sort of like there are things that have occurred to individuals that I am not on board with, that I think suck.
Could you name one of those?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about some of them together.
Yeah, we've talked about cancel culture.
I mean, a classic example is perhaps that woman many years ago. I mean, this is one that nearly everyone will bring up, that was taking a plane to Africa. She made
Justine Sacco.
an off-color joke about AIDS. I do think that I personally can see how people would look at that and think like, oh, that's either casual or maybe even not so casual racism. But then I can also see how somebody could be saying that
There's a forgiving and an unforgiving way
as like an edgy joke that I can see how
I
someone
don't even think
who,
I don't think it's an edgy joke. I think that she was making a joke about being an ugly American abroad. That's my interpretation of her joke.
Right. Well, that's charitable, and I'm not saying that I look at that joke and I'm not going to pretend to know that I know exactly what was going on in her head. Basically, I can see.
Sure, yeah. We have to kind of make a guess about it.
I can imagine either the like charitable or uncharitable view of that joke. I mean, I suppose there's a level of uncharity that you could go to where, like, oh, this person, she's in the KKK and she just like she loathes black, like that. Maybe that would be kind of taking it a little too far. But someone who possibly said like, look, this person does like might harbor more kind of, I don't know, like unexamined biases, and like should have, I don't know, like there's certain ways that one can kind of dissect that, and I would be understanding of the appraisal.
So here's the fundamental difference in how you and I see the Justine Sacco case.
Yeah.
You see it as she said something deserving of criticism. I don't disagree with you on that, even though we see it differently.
Yeah.
She said something deserving of criticism. She got some criticism. A lot of it went over the line. A lot of it went too far. Would that be like a fair summary of how you see it?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, I've seen like,
Can I tell you how I see
it? I've seen some of the like responses to her tweet, and there are, actual death threats.
Can I tell you how I see it?
And people just losing their shit. Yes, please go ahead. Tell me how you see it.
Okay. The way I see it is Twitter turned ruining this woman's life into a game for people to entertain themselves with. That's how I see Justine Sacco.
Right. And the thing is,
it wasn't a matter of just a few people going a little too far.
The thing is, though, is that, and like we've sort of touched on this again, like for those who are listening, I guess we should divulge that you and I, we've had some like friendly discussions in like DMs and stuff about how we view.
Some of them were on main.
Yeah, some of them got like maybe like, I wouldn't say any of them got like fuck off,
I don't mean like that. Some of them were in public. Some of our disagreements on this were.
Oh yeah, that's right. I thought you were going to say that they got
no.
they never got like, I never got the vibe that they were like overly like either of us were getting like completely out of line. But yeah, I mean, with the Sacco thing, I mean, what you're saying about how they would make that a game, I would say that there is an element to, I mean, people just like the power that kind of, and it's a bad thing. It's a kind of an insidious aspect of human nature, and probably something that I wouldn't, I mean, I can't think of a time where I've kind of hopped onto a bandwagon like that, but I think that it's something that probably people have done over here and there. No one's necessarily immune to acting that way, especially over the course of their entire life. I think some of this behavior is stuff that people will tend to do more when they're younger. Not saying that there aren't full-grown adults who will do that till the day they die.
That's what you.
But
I always convince myself of that too. Like, oh, this is like a lot of young people, but the mob was led by this guy. I think his name's Sam Biddle, and he was a writer at Gawker, and he was among the most vicious people. He's since apologized, but he was among the loudest people, kind of cheering this on.
right.
So we can't just entirely say, oh, it's just a few young people. I want to say that another person who jumped on the bandwagon was Donald J. Trump, who gloated about her eminent firing.
Of course, that guy is just rife with cancel culture related.
He's very concerned about racism among white visitors to Africa. He's the most concerned about it, Vadim. You can't deny it. No one's more concerned about racism among white people visiting Africa than Donald Trump.
And then, of course, we also know from the recent debate between him and Biden that he's the least racist person in the room. But yeah, no, look, I will agree with you that there is, like, I guess you could say, boil it down to whether or not people are consciously realizing it, they turn it into some sort of game. It's like a sick game. But what I think is that there has always been that, like, inclination or just that drive in people, and it's manifested in different ways. And now we see it on the internet, and unfortunately it's amplified because of the fact that Twitter gives people tools to kind of, come together and create these groups. And that's some of the best things about the internet are equally some of the worst things about the internet. I mean, like, there are very good ways in which the internet has created communities, and those communities have been able to do good as a result of working together. And then there's the other
also ruin each other's lives, and
the other side of the sword, which is shit like this. And probably there's other more other examples. I want to throw something else out real quickly, just because two things that I want to throw out before we continue talking. I want it to be understood that whenever I make a video, there is at least another video's worth of points that I would have liked to include if I, if I either thought that people had the attention span for it, and then more than that, my videos take a fuckload of time to make. So
they're very your videos are very intensive, like work intense and research intense, and like very, very well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I really enjoy your videos.
So
they're labors of love. Everyone is a labor of love.
I really appreciate that. They truly are. And I want to say that because, I mean, I guess it's always the case. Even with I'm sure every YouTuber who is worth his weight in gold, his or her weight in gold, or their weight in gold, would probably agree with me that they probably have the same dilemma. And I usually get on a lot of videos like, well, you didn't mention this, you didn't mention that. And
I did that.
And I did not see your comment in the. I'll have to scan the comments.
No. I sent it to you. I said that you should have talked about cuties.
Oh yes.
But go on.
We can go into that, but
no, I don't want to. Go.
But anyhow, the other thing that I wanted to say, which is something that I thought of talking about, which I just felt like was a whole can of worms. It was something that I didn't feel like I could do in a concise amount of time, and I had a someone who follows me, who is someone that I'm friendly with, who appreciates my work, and they made a video response to my video, and they
made a response to the video you just put out?
Yes, they did.
Oh, okay. All right.
And there's someone who is very concerned.
Do you want to say their name, or do you want to keep it on the DL?
I mean, I guess I could say their name. I don't think.
I mean, it potentially promotes their video.
Their name is Eliana Clark, and okay. She's a pretty
And
smart
what was her take?
individual. Well, this is the thing. You know, she is very kind of cognizant, and she actually has a background of, like, you know, she at one point she was a little more right wing than she is now,
Mm,
and so she really detests the way that she in her video, and I wish that I had watched it twice, because there are some things that I'm not going to quite recall as well as she puts it. There are some points that I didn't even know that she brought up, which is that the first the first time that cancel culture was ever mentioned was somewhere in the 50s, and it was actually a term that the left used. And I don't want to get too into it, because I don't even know if they were using it in anywhere close to the same context
yeah, I
that
didn't
that
realize.
that
I have
that,
never
that
heard the term goes back that far. I've always heard
yeah.
it originated from like early 2000s.
Yeah, and it's mostly known like thousands about political correctness. And that's another point to make, that I could have gone into, which again, like, perhaps I'll make a video that talks about like popular terms and the way that they've been kind of both co-opted by the right, and the way that they have kind of evolved over time. I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't know if I'll do it, because I have all these
Sure,
ideas,
yeah.
but
Personally, I'm not precious about the word cancel culture.
oh,
It's
I hate. I wish. I mean, this is another thing that I would have liked to have said. That that I thought of putting in kind of the wrap
like
up
saying that you don't
of
like
my
the word.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the word. I wish that the left could kind of come up with see. This is the
But
problem.
Vadim, it originates from the left.
I
You just said that they took it.
I know, I know. So, well, that's exactly what I sort of the point. I'm going to make a point and then counter my point, which
Oh,
is
okay.
that on one hand, a part of me wishes that we could come up with some term so that we can take more control of the conversation. Because
But Vadim, that's a fundamentally wrong because we gave up control, but we handed it over. We just ceded territory. We were loudly and proudly proclaiming that cancel culture is not real.
well, I mean, some people do, and then you
We didn't
have
lose the
a
fight.
lot.
We surrendered.
You have a lot of left wing YouTubers who discuss cancel culture, and I agree with some of their, simultaneously agree and disagree with some of their takes.
Well, every case is complicated and different, so I
Yeah,
rarely just like have like one opinion on it. I want to get back to something that you
sure.
talked about, which is how um cancel culture is perceived as more on the right, on the left than on the right. And your thesis is that that's wrong because there's tons of examples on the right. And I
The,
agree with that, but you
there's
sort of
tons of I mean, there are tons of examples on the right, yet at the same time, I think the major thing, and I really, it's only in like, I touch on some examples very brief, some things that I would say are like, for instance, towards the end, I mention all of the trans individuals who have lost jobs, and these are numbers that we'll never really know
yeah,
what the actual, I mean, I assume it has been happening for decades. They recently got protections. They do not have, from the Supreme Court, they do not have protections though for things like housing discrimination, and I forget what else. There's a couple of important things that they don't have
yeah.
protections for, so they still can definitely be discriminated against legally in lots of states. Um, and like that's an example of, like, at the end of the video, I wrap it up by saying that I wish that we could recontextualize all of these things and realize the right is worse, not so much because of most of the examples that I gave. I mean, yes, some of the examples that I gave are pretty bad, but they are examples of how it exists on the right. And I would say also in general, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think that the right tend to be people who wag their finger, oh, the left is filled with cancel culture, and then at the same time, they're fucking crybabies, they're bullies, and they will partake in it themselves. I mean, the way that I mentioned that there are all of these fucking right wingers who talk about culture who have launched or threatened frivolous libel lawsuits that
Yep.
that hold absolutely no water whatsoever. Um, and they usually get what they want when they threaten those things.
They,
They
they're
usually,
very successful at it. They're very
yeah.
successful at whining to the refs. I have a theory about why people have a heightened sense of cancel culture on the left and a dulled sense on the right. You ready? You ready for it? Tell me
So
what
do
you think.
I.
Okay.
So you tell me yours.
Okay. Here's my theory. Left wing censoriousness tends to be about the destruction of the status quo, and the right wing censoriousness tends to be about the preservation of the status quo. So, what are right wing people censorious about? Colin Kaepernick disrespected the flag. What are left people censorious about? You didn't affirm transgender rights in a way using here's a great example. You platformed a trans medicalist. Well, most people have no idea what a trans medicalist is. This doesn't so they don't know what that means. So it gives them the sense of anxiety and nervousness. Whereas everyone knows you're supposed to salute the flag. So one seems like oh, okay, I understand that rule and I know how to steer clear of it. If I want to break it, I can break it, but if I want to steer clear of it, I know where the boundaries are. But when the left does it, I think people don't know where the boundaries are, and that gives them a kind of apprehension. That's my theory.
Well, that's interesting. I would say that I agree with some of that. I'd have to kind of like chew over it a little bit. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that there are some other problems as well. I think that the left is just overall, and I'm not saying that there aren't plenty of people on the left who are dishonest or kind of just are really like paragons of truthfulness, but or don't act in like some bad faith ways. But in
Right.
general, I think the left is more capable of introspection and more capable of like kind of doing checks on itself, which is why
So how does that? Yeah, explain that.
yeah, so which is why you have, I mean, because you were saying that we gave it over to the right. There are some people who will just flat out say cancel culture doesn't exist, but there's also tons of left leaning people who will say it does exist, and they will like I was on a panel and I actually enjoyed myself quite a bit. And the people on it were all very smart and whatnot. And we all had our like say on things, and like everyone who was there to talk about how it manifests on the left. And it's not like
So the panel was talking about cancel culture on the left.
but no. The panel. I mean, it was supposed to be just a discussion of cancel culture in general. You know,
Okay.
it wasn't necessarily let's talk about how the left does it.
Okay.
It was very open ended. And
Yeah.
so I made some points in the beginning, which everyone agreed with, which is stuff that I've more or less said here. Just that, like, look, I think it's very important to recognize that the right do this but by the way, I mentioned a few ways that the right do it that I think are far more
Mhm.
kind of like far reaching than the left does it. They cancel entire like groups and shit. There's way more examples than I gave,
Mhm.
but I said I think that the left needs to really focus on these things, be more I mean that talking about how it manifests on the left is important. We should have those conversations because we want to be as good as we can and whatnot.
And how
But
did they respond to that?
well, everybody agreed with me, and I also
Yeah.
said, and this was like an opening statement. So I said, like, and I would like to kind of, over the course of this discussion, maybe talk about some tactics that the left can employ in order to like, swing this conversation over to our favor, and yada yada
So
yada.
what
and
were
and 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 the thing is that we never got to that. Like, I tried to
right? Yeah.
introduce it, but everybody, and these are like, I don't want to make it sound like either I was shut out, or that,
Just a lot of
like,
people wanted to talk.
yeah, I mean, this is like
Yeah.
a 9-person panel, but
Yeah, of course.
I will, like, again, everyone that was there are people who I think had really excellent things to say, and I'm not mad at any of those people. But it's just funny to me that like, we spent the entire time talking about that stuff, and nothing. One person who I think is I've seen some videos of his that I think, where he talks about cancel culture. One or two that I thought Vaush, or
Okay.
Vosh, that I thought he was kind of like off on, and kind of making too big a deal of certain things.
But
But
he
then
was on this panel with you?
no, he was not on this panel.
Okay.
I'm just talking about him in general. But then he also has made videos where he's talking about certain topics having to do with cancel culture. And, like, for instance, he talked about that letter that was co-signed by
The
Noam
Harper's letter.
Chomsky. Yes,
Yep.
that had, like,
And what was his take on that?
his take was like, these people are full of shit, and
Oh
like,
God, I would be mad.
it's too bad that like, Noam Chomsky put his
He should
name
have
on
me
it.
on his channel, and I'll debate him.
You should, because I mean, you should watch his video, though. I mean, if you read that letter, it's pretty clear. Like, all the examples that they give
They don't
are,
give any examples.
no,
They talk about in
they
purely vague.
no. Nathan Robinson, you know who Nathan is,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Nathan Robinson actually wrote a really excellent, what I think to be an excellent piece on cancel culture, and
I did not like this article, by the way.
well, he talked about the letter, and he talked
Here,
about,
here's what he. I just want to interject something really quick. He did the classic thing that annoys me when leftists talk about cancel culture, which is they go, "Oh, this is actually a problem not among us, but among the liberals. It's them. They're doing it." He deflects his entire point. He made some good points, but he kept deflecting, and that always bothers me when leftists do it. But go on.
I think that he is correct that the Harper's letter had a very right wing, like, they don't come out and say it, but they are saying that if you really dissect it, it comes across like they are saying this is a problem of the left. And
Okay, I have to say something though. That is not necessarily a right wing talking point, because the cancel culture perpetrated by the left, and we both agree that the left does cancel culture sometimes. That cancel culture most frequently victimizes the left as well, and that is why I think it's so important to discuss cancel culture on the left, because it's a circular firing squad. We're taking ourselves out. We never go after the left on this stuff, on the right on this stuff. That is.
No, I think people do. Like, for instance, I mean, I think they just go after, like, sometimes it's very obvious. And that's another thing I wanted to say about the difference with the right and the left. Often the things that the right are quote unquote canceled for are truly reprehensible things. And like, for instance, like, I heard the term cancel culture in response to what was that, Roy Moore, that guy who,
Oh, okay. The guy ran for Senate in 2017 and lost to Doug Jones.
yeah, was it as far back as 2017? Yeah.
It was a special election in 2017. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had a pretty, it was pretty hard to believe that he didn't partake like, fucking young girls and shit like that, or at least trying to.
Well, he dated a 14-year-old when he was like in his 30s.
Yes, he did.
Yes. And like apparently was cruising the mall to pick up teenagers, which is my favorite part of it. I shouldn't say favorite, but it's my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
It's a funny image.
It is. It's simultaneously
so Roy Moore,
grotesque.
Someone on the but okay, Roy, I just have an essential problem. Well, I guess the rap against Roy Moore, and the cancel culture rap against Roy Moore would be that the expose on him was a cancel culture hit job, I guess, is what Roy Moore fans would say. Right. Yeah, I disagree with that.
I mean,
fundamentally disagree with that.
The thing is that like another example is someone like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, the left has been pointing out just how he has
Sleeping Giants has been like targeting his advertisers for like 3 years now.
Yeah, and rightfully so, I think. I mean, you can see like I believe one of his writers outed as like he got fired, but he was a legit white supremacist. And there's this video out there that I don't know if you know who Jared Taylor is, but he's a white supremacist.
Yes.
Who is very influential in those circles. And like there is a video that takes like speeches by what's his face, by Jared Taylor,
Tucker Carlson,
and no, it has them side by side, and it will play Tucker Carlson saying something, and then pause Tucker Carlson, and then Jared Taylor will say something that's just a few words. It's the same exact thing, just a few words different. And the similarity is absolutely stunning. So the thing is, the thing is that when the left attempts to cancel the right, unless they have done something that is like so like well documented,
you have to catch them with the smoking gun in their hand.
Yeah, you have to catch them with the smoking gun in their hands, and it has to be really, really fucking bad. The right has to be, it's really the right has to cancel itself. That's why, like, in spite of the fact that Milo was a piece of shit for so long, it took the actual right to cancel him for eventually for
I've gotten into big arguments about that online, because whenever I say cancel culture is bad and doesn't work and is bad, people come at me and they're like, oh well look at how we took care of Milo. I dispute this entire Milo story. Milo was not taken out by the left, and it wasn't a Twitter ban either. It wasn't deplatforming or leftist cancel culture that did in Milo. Milo was done in by his employer, who fired him, his benefactor, his employer being Breitbart, an extremely right-wing publication, his benefactor, who cut him off, the Mercers, right-wing backers, and mismanaged business dealings that basically took him out over a period of several years. It is not a when leftists try to take credit for deplatforming Milo, it drives me crazy. It's stolen valor, in my opinion.
You might be right. There might be a little that maybe they kind of popularized some things that if it were not for them like kind of tooting the horn enough, that sounds really
like what?
I mean, I'm just saying, look, I'm not saying I'm
right. Here's how the left responded to Milo. They said, "Oh, Milo's coming to our campus, and he's dangerous and harmful, and we need to shut him down." Well, what was Milo's branding? His branding was, "I'm dangerous, and people are trying to shut me down." His tour was literally called, I won't say the full word, but it was called Dangerous F Word. So
right.
The attack, the left wing attacks on Milo,
but that's a little
conceptually flawed.
That's a little, I don't know. I because the thing is that what you're doing there is that you're taking all of the people who protested against him on campuses and making that like it sounds like you're saying that's the left when when certainly that's a part of the left, but I don't know if that's like,
But that's the left that was responding to Milo, essentially.
There were other people who were, I mean, people were making, I'm sure that there were, you know, articles and opinion pieces on this guy. And I mean, like it's funny, I made a video called, and maybe I should not have used the F word, but
I will not judge you.
I only used it because
Milo used it. I mean, it was the name of Milo's tour.
Yeah, because his tour was Dangerous F-bomb. So
it was Dangerous Faggots. We'll just the cat's out of the bag. Okay, let's go.
Okay, right. I don't. That's fine. I don't mind you using it.
I'm describing the name of his tour. That's it.
Yes, I totally understand it. You're not doing it in sense at all. I called the video Milo Yiannopoulos disingenuous F word.
Okay.
And it's, it's funny because as I was making that video, the whole thing, his undoing occurred.
Oh,
and so I had
you brought him down. You did it. Your video did
it. It was all me. See, the left did take him down.
I stand corrected.
But yeah, I think in general it's very difficult for, I mean, also the right is more successful at bullying the left into canceling itself. I mean, this has been.
Remember when Cernovich got Sam Cedar fired from MSNBC?
Yeah, but you can
total bullshit. We fall for them every time we fall for it. It's so disgusting.
You can go. I mean, there are much worse because he got his job back, and that's just one person. There are much worse examples. I mean, the whole Acorn thing with James, what's his name?
O'Keefe.
James O'Keefe. And Project Veritas. I don't even know if he called it Project Veritas at that point, but Acorn was an excellent, very, very useful thing for low income people, and it did.
It was useful for low income people for housing, and it was useful for the Democrats for voter turnout.
Yeah. It had lots of uses. And they were able to get that out. There was at least one or two aides to Obama that were called out for bullshit reasons. And I think there was one situation where Glenn Beck was hysterical over some non-issue, and I forget who it was. I believe it was
Van Jones who he was like saying someone was like an eco-fascist or something like that.
Van Jones did get fired. I forget all the details about it, but this is something different. The individual that I'm thinking of was female, and they fired her rather quickly. She resigned, but it was rather.
Was that something over being like an eco-fascist? I vaguely remember something involving that.
I don't know. It's been so long, but the details don't matter. It's just what matters is that is, an example that existed well before people were, before cancel culture was at least popular within our vernacular. And
sure, yeah. So I wanted to just follow up with something like, so you were about to explain, or you were saying on the panel that it's important to address left-wing cancel culture. Why is that in your opinion? Why is that important to address?
Well, I mean, I think that it's important in that we should always take stock of. I'm sorry, I'm eating.
What are you eating there?
I'm eating hot tamales.
I haven't had those since I was a teenager.
Yeah, I was at Walmart and they had like a box of for $1, so I'm just eating them like they're potato chips right now. But so I'm gonna stop now though, because I don't want. I probably sounded like a slob earlier, and I'd like to not sound that way. But yeah, I think it's important in the same way that it's important to. I mean, perhaps there are differences, but it's like I also think that it's important to, like if there is some left wing, like for instance, like for the most part, I'm totally down with the Green New Deal and
Okay.
and whatnot, but and maybe I sound a little uninformed here. Okay, there's definitely like I'm not too like I've read certain aspects of it, but I don't know it top to bottom. And maybe it perhaps there are certain things within that within that are just that could either be improved on, or maybe they're unimportant. I don't know. I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe everything in it is perfectly fine. But what I'm saying is that like, in the same way that we should look at policies and other aspects of things that the left are doing that could potentially be wrong, it's always good to do some sort of introspection and try and be as good as we can. Yet at the same time, I do fear, and I'm not saying that everyone that talks about cancel culture on the left falls into that talks about cancel culture from the left rather falls into this trap. But I I want to find some sort of happy medium where we're talking about it, but we're not belaboring it, and we're not talking about it at the expense of like, just attacking the right for that very thing, because what they're
But do you think
doing
one of the reasons
is
why it gets
worse.
belabored is because of the response it gets? Just for instance, Ben Burgess's new book has cancel in the title. It's called like Canceling Comedians While Rome Burns or something. And I just saw people like mutuals of mine like freak out about this. It seems like whenever you try to talk about it, people try to shut you down, and it forces us to belabor the point.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Vadim, are
can't.
you eating hot tamales again?
I'm eating the hot tamales again. It's
It's
like
okay.
it totally like it's like biting my nails or something. I'm
You have
doing
you
it
have you have to like take the hot
without
tamales
even.
box and put it far away from you.
Yeah, I'm throwing them onto the bed right now. So okay, they're well
Yeah.
without. They're totally out of my reach.
I mean, you can just eat hot tamales if you want to. It's no skin off my nose.
There's only like 3 left. So
Vadim, you may as well finish the hot tamales.
all right, fine. Thank you. Thanks for. There's Yep. Literally 3 and like a quarter of a tamale that somehow got in there.
Well,
But
you have to eat all of them.
I will eat every last one. But yeah, I would first of all, Ben Burgess is someone who generally I think he has a lot of really really insightful things to say.
Yeah, I think he's a cool guy.
And I know very little about what his book. I could agree
Yeah, I don't know what his
with
book is about.
like I could agree
But no one
potentially.
knows what his
Not
book is about. It's not out yet. But people are responding to the title.
I would not be I would not respond by like getting pissed off like, what are you doing, what the fuck.
Yeah, but that's how people are responding, though.
But
That's the problem.
yeah. But I could be possibly in agreement with them with the general idea that he that I don't know, that writing a book like that is that he could be spending his time in a more fruitful, productive way. But
See, I question that whole thing. We've identified a problem, and apparently we're not allowed to talk about the problem. Well, that makes me think it's a big problem.
But we are allowed to talk about the problem.
But no, I understand we are. But what you just said right there? Oh, well, maybe there's more important things you should talk about. So I can see why. Well, no, hold on. He should, if he wants to write about this thing that's a problem, he should write about this thing that's a problem.
He certainly should do whatever he wants. Like he could write a book about how to make a leather wallet if he wants.
Yeah.
But
and no one would be yelling at him about how he needs to find more important things to talk about than leather wallets if he were doing that.
Right. But I mean, I guess maybe that's not the best example. I'm trying to think of another. It just nothing is popping into my head
See,
of like
if 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 if
another.
if, if when I said, oh, I think, I think cancel culture is a problem. I think cancel culture is a workers' rights issue, and we need to take it seriously. If everyone responded to me like, yeah, I have seen stuff like that. I have seen that stuff that make me go, huh, I'm really kind of worried about this. I would like people to address this. Then I'd be like, hey, great, awesome, and I probably would have moved on. But that has really largely not been the response to it. The response has really been largely to kind of question my motives or get mad at me for some reason for bringing it up, and it
Mhm.
just makes me think that this itself is indicative of a problem on the left, that we're
You,
apparently not supposed to talk about this thing that we all see happening.
yeah, I don't like. I think that there are some people who like I'd have to see certain examples because it's just again like it's such a hard thing to pin down because again we're dealing with this amorphous term that means different things to different people
Yeah, but at the
and
same time though, the word succeeds because we recognize it. Like words succeed if we say, oh, I know how to apply that to experiences I've had, and that's the case with cancel culture. Even if we have a hard time pinning it down.
okay.
Like, I mean, but even you're like, oh, I don't like the word cancel culture, but then you put it in the title of your video. Why?
Right.
Because you have that,
I don't like the term, but
but it's a successful term.
I recognize that it is the term that there it like and it's some people use the term call out culture. Some people argue that there is a difference between the two. But they're just they're they it's a term that like I reluctantly use because there isn't something to use in its place. And as you
Right. That's
said,
why we use. Oh, that's
and as you
why we
said,
use words.
unfortunately, if the left did come up with some sort of like term for it, it probably just would be
The left did
appropriated
come up with that
by the
term,
right.
though.
Yeah,
I think that's what happened. The left came up with the term and they
the left
incorporated it.
the left came in up with the term, but it fell out of fashion, and then it came back many years later, and it was
No, I don't think it
through
was that
it
many.
was well, from what I understand, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that they came up with it a long time ago, and it was not used for a very long time. And then many of the same people who were talking about political correctness in the early 2000s, who are mostly like right wingers and often even religious people,
People who
started.
track neologisms place it as having originated from Black culture around like the early teens, basically, like
Okay,
2010. I don't have a source for that offhand, but I
right.
mean, if you research it, you can find people placing it that. So maybe I shouldn't say the left because Black culture isn't the left, but Black people are overwhelmingly politically on the left. So I don't know, whatever. But it's just it's not. Let me put it this way: it's not a term that originates from the right. It's just not. And I think
There's
people
there
kind of get that wrong. They hijacked it. They hijacked the term.
there's also another aspect of why I think that kind of belaboring discussing the topic is a little fruitless. And that's because again, I although I do think that discussing it to a certain amount, you may get some people who are capable of introspection, of kind of like thinking about things, and maybe they'll kind of just think about their habits, and they'll do it a little less. For every one convert that you get who like says like, okay, I'm going to be um more careful and considerate, thoughtful about the times in which I partake in this sort of behavior. There's more people are going to come in. More people are, join the left. More people, and I do believe even maybe if it's not primarily or overwhelmingly something that young people do. I do think that it's something that young people are very prone to do because young people, they're just starting to get a sense of justice and politics, and they want to have a voice. And sometimes that I can see how doing that would make them feel like they are accomplishing something. And basically what I'm saying is that I just think that to a certain extent there is an uncontrollable aspect of it. And the only way that I see it kind of balancing itself out is many years down the line, if we are able to achieve some sort of society in which we've had a long standing, and at least a decade or two, maybe. And hey, what do I know? I don't have a crystal ball of more of a sense of equality, where we don't have both people of color getting the short end of the stick in lots of different ways.
I don't even see how this is related.
Well, I think it's related because I think that what we see with cancel culture to a certain extent is there are some people who drive it, who either are part of certain communities who have been shit on for so long, they were canceled in a whole lot of different ways, arguably far worse than the ways in which people are typically canceled online. Or when I say far worse, I mean
I don't even agree with this because I see cancel culture carried out by like the most privileged shitheads in positions of power all the time. The people behind that David Morse, that Alex Morse bullshit. I don't even agree that this is who is carrying out cancel culture.
Well, I mean, it happens in different ways. Like, for instance, some people would.
I feel like I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just feel like you're making arguments like, well, we can't do anything about it. So I feel like that's your argument in a nutshell.
No. I think that there. I'm not saying that nothing can be done about it. Period. But
I can think of a lot of things right now.
to a certain extent, yes, I do think that it is this kind of thing that people have a drive to do, and they can do, and like just kind of discussing it, dissecting it, complaining about it, whatever. I don't think we're going to see a large reduction in it happening.
We don't accept this argument in any other field. Every problem that we talk about in society, from climate change to racism, these are all extremely pernicious problems, right? Like, how do you solve racism? Isn't it just an attitude? Isn't it like, how do you police an attitude? Gee, I don't know. We don't just go, oh well, okay, moving on. That's not how we react.
But again, cancel culture to an extent, I think, is a logical. It's sort of like I mentioned this in a discussion that we had. Like when it comes to BLM protests, there's a certain amount of like what people would call quote unquote rioting that I could give a shit. Like if a cop car gets burned, I don't really care. Like I don't think it's great optics for the left, but like at the same time, yeah. But at the same time, but then like I don't think that there's much good in like, and I think that this is overblown by certain people like Ian Miles Chung, Andy No, and whatnot. The amount of people who are like setting fire or like looting mom and pop stores and stuff, it does happen, and I don't like that.
There were some bad rioting.
Yeah. And so I can at once say that like I don't think that in general many of these cases are good things to do, and yet in the same way that Martin Luther King, I mean, I'm basically just taking a page from Martin Luther King. He said something to the effect of that rioting is like a although he did not think it was, oh God, I'm paraphrasing it terribly. he said something to the effect of, "Oh, do you know what it is? Would you like to say
I
it?"
don't have it offhand, but I read the whole speech not that long ago, and
It's like the voice of the disenfranchised, people
yeah,
who
it's
yeah.
I mean it's a clear condemnation of rioting. I feel like that.
It's a condemnation of writing, but it's an acceptance that it comes from it's a side effect. It's a
It's a
symptom.
reaction. Yeah, yes, yeah, very well said. Yeah.
It's a symptom
It's a
of
it's a response to injustice.
yes, exactly. And to some degree, I think that cancel culture is the same. That people when it comes from the left and people are kind of because usually like often when things are like when there are particular topics where people are canceled for bad reasons, if the reason that they were getting incensed about was as if they were accurate, that it was as bad
Well,
as they're
see, there's a
saying it
big if
is.
there, though. If they were accurate, and the problem is that there doesn't seem these things seem to be
Yes, but
led
I but
by irrationality, and they're not accurate. Is the problem?
right. I'm not saying that it's rational. I'm saying that I can see how people would like again, for instance, with the woman who tweeted that thing about the Africa tweet. Justine
Justine
Sacco.
Sacco.
Yeah. Like I do not think she should have been fired. Unless it was that there was more evidence out there that she was this like maliciously racist person. Yet
Hmm.
at the same time, I like I I think that there is some middle ground where people
I'm kind of glad Justine.
where people can kind of say like, okay, there there is this like sort of casual racism, is this like and there are people who have been who have dealt with this shit for so long who are just saying like, I don't want to put up with this shit anymore. And so I can see how people can become sort of
Okay, I
sensitive
don't want to put up with
and
this shit.
yeah.
I don't want to put up with this shit anymore. Is absolutely a righteous feeling, but when it's directed entirely at one random 30-year-old woman who made a joke to 200 people on Twitter, that is the problem. That is not the correct target for our righteous anger. And I almost believe that some of this cancel culture is actually protecting terrible people in our society, because you know what, the truly terrible malicious people in our society are protected. They're hard to take down. It's hard to take down Donald Trump. It's hard to take down Jeff Bezos. It's hard to take down all these fucking assholes. But you know who we can take down? We can absolutely ruin Justine Sacco's year. And I'm glad that we brought up Justine Sacco, because I feel like we did not do a good job explaining the situation, because we're making it sound like Justine Sacco people were mean to her on Twitter. And I want to explain what happened with Justine Sacco. She sent a tweet right before getting on a 13-hour flight to Africa. I don't know where in Africa it was. The tweet said something to the effect of going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS. Ha ha ha. Just kidding. I'm white. Okay. She sends the tweet, turns off her phone, gets on a plane. Right as she's in the air, the media picks up this tweet and starts to circulate. It's the number one trend on Twitter while she's up in the air. And the hashtag that's trending is, has Justine landed yet? And the reason why people want to know if Justine's landed yet is because they can't wait for her to see her life be ruined and learn that she's been fired, which has happened publicly. She's publicly been fired by her employer, and they can't wait for her to get off the plane and see what happened and have her life ruined in front of her. And one of the people following this, who lived in the city where she's landing, found out where she was landing and at what time, drove to the airport and waited for her with his camera. And when she got off the plane and checked her phone, took a picture of her and uploaded it so people could watch her humiliation in real time. And one
Yeah,
more thing about that. When you Google Justine Sacco during this trending period, the thing that came up, you Googled the name Justine Sacco, the thing that came up was her plane itinerary telling you where she landed. That is a sick society.
I think that again, if there was not this like whole this huge history of people getting shit on that just like did not want to take it anymore, that rightfully would, like, for instance, okay, like, there's the like incidents involving blackface, and a lot of them
Can you name a specific one? So
a
I just
lot
I
of
don't like to
them.
talk about things. I don't like to talk about things in abstract. If you could like.
Well, I was going to mention like a few. There are people who, there's like Justin Trudeau who did
Yeah.
it.
So
And
Justin Trudeau is a guy who did it and got away with it because he is in a position of power.
I think it's a combination of he did it. He was in a position of power. He did it in like a very long time ago, mostly because he was in
Who
a
suffered more
position of.
consequences, Justin Trudeau or Justine Sacco?
Oh, definitely
It's
Justine Sacco,
by a
but
lot.
what I'm saying is that there, like that is like his the instance where he did it, and there's been some like Republican people who have done it, and it's looked pretty bad. It's
Ralph
entirely
Northam
different.
did it too.
In my opinion, in a way, it's entirely different than when uh what's her name, popular comedian, she is in her 40s now. She's kind of pretty, dark hair. Come on, she's done a lot of stuff on
I don't know.
Comedy Central. You know who I'm talking about. I'm just
What did she
blanking
do?
on her name. I actually, like, I've met her a couple of times.
Sarah Silverman?
Yeah, Sarah Silverman did blackface, and
I
she's
just
gotten
thought you said she was pretty, so I just thought of which comedians I'm horny for. I think
um
Sarah Silverman's like 50 now.
probably close to it, but yeah, she might be like right at 50. Still looks pretty
49.
good.
Yeah, no, yeah,
And
she's
anyhow, she did it, and the thing is that it's like, I simultaneously see what people have a problem with, because basically, I mean, like, blackface is very close to the N word. It's not quite that level, but it is this thing that inevitably, when people of color see it, or other people who are, who are sensitive to things, they are reminded of the fact that this for centuries was used to denigrate black people, and that was the idea. I mean, when, in my opinion, when she was doing it, and when other certain left-wing comedians were doing it, they were kind of making a statement on racist culture. The thing is that, like, you, in this day and age, it's sort of like,
well, a lot of people just believe the
does.
context doesn't even matter, which is a
Yeah.
thing that drives me insane.
Well, the thing is that, yes, it's like, but the context of what she was trying to do should be part of the equation. At the same time, I can understand, like, even though that I think that there, like, could be some sort of statements to be made that she was making. I can also see how just it's sort of like, it.
I mean, this is a bad example because, I mean, one, did Sarah Silverman suffer really any even real consequences? Is she even like a example of a victim of cancel culture, really? And is anyone
No,
really defending her?
I'm not saying that she is, but
I think she's an example of someone where it's
but
probably like a reasonable response,
but
actually.
but but but
Oh,
but I've I've
you did
seen
blackface, people are mad about it. Okay,
I've seen a lot of
this is
people
like a
who,
Chris Pratt example.
yeah, I'm not saying that she, like, has lost anything for it. I'm not saying she got canceled. I'm not saying that she got like a like, I'm not, I'm actually saying, like, I can see both sides. I can see
Almost.
how, one, she at the time was making a statement which she thought to be kind of mocking racist culture, and it was kind of a way to say, like, look how stupid this thing is that people did for so long. And there's also, like, comedians kind of like want to shock. So I don't know. It would be interesting. I should maybe
What do
look
you think?
up.
What do you think about like the removal of those blackface episodes of TV shows that are now banned in our society?
I mean,
'Cause I think
what shows are you talking about?
Okay, so
Like Amos and
about
Andy or something?
no, I'm talking about 5 episodes of 30 Rock that are removed from all streaming services. I'm talking about apparently an episode of Scrubs that I watched that show. I don't remember it, where I guess someone wears blackface.
I
There is wait, hold
I
on, let me finish the list. Um, uh, I don't know if you ever watched that show Community, but the Ken Jeong character, um, wore blackface as a he wore like charcoal black in one episode because he was like an elf playing D&D. That episode is removed, and there's an episode of Golden Girls where they have like they got sunburned and their like skin is brown. Um, and that
okay.
episode has been removed from multiple streaming platforms.
Well, I'd have to see the Golden Girls episode. In general, I sort of understand why that would be done, because the thing is that it's an understandable reaction for those
Is it an
who
understandable reaction for our society to ban art though? I feel like it's not.
if the are is it banning like I mean that's
Yes, it is banned. Almost everyone watches their watches television on streaming platforms right now, and they've all coordinated in removing this stuff.
it's
Big tech has once
it's
again put their boot down on our neck.
would you let's say that like in the 50s when you know and there, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some examples, but let's say that there were you know shows where just casually white people were saying the N word a lot, and like it for I understand and respect that certain things just that you know that there's an anger that
I
people of color can have with people who create things, and they where
just
they're
FYI,
where they think like I like this person, the people who made this have no idea of the horrible feelings that this stirs up in so many people when they see this. So
Netflix has a bunch of movies, predominantly from the 70s, where characters actually do casually use the word,
I
a whole manner of racial slurs, including the N word. Um, Charlie in Mean Streets, I was just watching Mean Streets. Charlie, the protagonist of the movie, played by Harvey Keitel, casually uses slurs through the whole thing. One of the first lines in the movie is an anti Asian slur, and
right.
Taxi Driver's worse.
Right. And but those characters, I mean, those are characters who are meant to be. They're either. I mean, in Harvey Keitel's case, he's not
So you're
a
looking at them in
criminal.
context then. So you're looking at them in context. Well,
Yes, I
that's
am
all I
looking at
ask
them in
then that's
context.
all I ask for sitcoms then. Why can't we just understand that this is a product of a certain culture, and and look at what is presented to us in context, and make up our own minds. I don't see we've always been able to do that. I don't see why suddenly we just all of a sudden can't, and why we've drawn the line specifically and only around this one issue. Like Netflix is removing an episode of Golden Girls, but keeping up Taxi Driver. Doesn't make sense.
I
It's a
don't know.
nonsensical rule.
I'd have to see the examples. I all I have to say is that I think it's a complicated issue, and I think that people have not recognized just how horrible like people have always known that there was a kind of a racist kind of history to it, but I don't think that they necessarily were sensitive in the way that they are right now to
Why do
to
people?
the
Why does
fact.
the art of the past have to conform to our standards right now? I think that is a dangerous attitude for a society to have. I think that how we respond to art that challenges, art that defends us, says something important about us, and I think we're failing that test right now.
All right. All right. I mean, sometimes there are certain arguments that I'm not prepared to make because I like would need like a little bit of time to kind of like think them through and
I
kind of
understand.
and formulate exactly like how I feel about them. Like on one
Sure.
hand, yes, I do feel that context matters, and I do think that they're like, especially if you're creating a work in which someone is like awful. I mean, it's sort of like, I mean, you do have the N bombs in a lot of Quentin Tarantino's work, but it reminds me of kind of a lot of people said when Reservoir Dogs came out that it was a celebration of violence, and I believe that he himself said that's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard, because I'm making this into a disgusting thing. These are foul people, and there's nothing about this that I'm saying like is worthy of celebration. And likewise, I think that he creates these characters who are either transparently horrible or are incredibly flawed and have horrible sides to them. So like I can understand those characters throwing N bombs and it not being something that I think should upset people. But I mean, you raise a good
Well, why
point
say
in
that? I mean,
terms.
why not just say that people can make up their own minds? Maybe it is offensive that they're saying the. I think they do say the N word in that movie, and maybe it is offensive.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the
But maybe it's okay to be
the
offended.
movie, that these people are shitty. I
Yeah, no,
mean,
I'm saying maybe it's okay that it's offensive. I believe one of the things that I believe is that living in a free and open society, as we all aspire to do, one of the prices for that is that you will be offended sometimes. And I don't think that that's something that we need to shy away from.
yes and no. I mean, just because we shouldn't shy away from offending people, that we someone should go to like the South Bronx and just like for instance, recently
I
they
wasn't
collapsed.
saying we should offend everyone, Dean. What I was saying is that we should embrace the fact that sometimes people are offended, not go around offending people on purpose for no reason.
Yes, but if if hmm, I you know maybe we can put this aspect of the discussion on hold, because it's
Sure,
something that
I said
I'd
most of what I
have
wanted to say. Yeah,
to like, it's something that I'd have to kind of think about more thoroughly. I don't want to see things outright banned, yet at the same time I do think that there is some sort of reckoning that we can have, some sort of like kind of way in which we can look at this stuff and say like, okay, like this was maybe not a good idea. I mean,
hmm
like for instance, like like if like I know that Eddie Murphy, if you listen to like 90% of his stand up from the 80s, which for the most part is hilarious,
hmm
it's littered with these parts I mean, with tons of homophobia. There's
yeah, yeah,
tons of F bombs, and it's not just the fact that he says F bombs, it's also that like, he has bits where like he literally has a line that's like, you know, I I don't have a problem with F words. It's just their F words, and it's
yeah. That's a bit
and
rough.
and 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 he has said that he regrets a lot of that material. Now, maybe he did it because he feels like he had. You could make the argument, oh, he realizes the climate that we're in and is doing some ass covering. But I wouldn't be surprised if he, like, I mean, he was like a teen. He was literally like
Yeah.
18 when he started doing some of that stuff.
Hopefully,
And
he's rethought some things in the intervening 40 years.
yeah, and I'm positive he would not do that stuff again. So sometimes people can who are not malicious, or maybe he was. It's very possible that he was genuinely homophobic at that time.
Sure.
Um, they can look back at things and realize, okay, this isn't a good course of action, even if we like have a statement that can be made with a white person in blackface, is it like is there another way to make this statement? Is there a way to kind of like temper it so that it either works, or just not do it because of the fact that people will like instinctively feel like just crestfallen from that shit, like they've been kicked around for decades, and there's such a history of them being treated like shit. I can see how when people see that stuff, they just look at it as like, oh, that's just more of people like not giving a shit about the degradation that we went through. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that that's always right, and that necessarily gives them the right, or that gives like the thumbs up for people to censor the material. I don't know exactly what the solution is. All I'm saying is that I can see all sides of it.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, I could talk about this for a long time, but we've been going for like 2 hours, so maybe we should
Yeah,
wrap it up. It's an in-depth, good in-depth conversation. I thought we both kind of our side. I don't know. I feel pretty good about it.
I do think again, that I'll just reiterate that I think that because I think you and I were both the same in that we really want the left to win. We
Yes, that's definitely true.
we're very that's something that we both want.
Yep.
And like maybe you and I have slightly different ideas in terms of the strategies that will ultimately get us there.
Mhm.
I do not want to put a moratorium on discussing cancel culture coming from the left, but I just see a lot of people whom I admire, whom I really like, who I think make way too much of a deal out of it, while simultaneously, in my opinion, not discussing the ways in which these things manifest themselves from the right, and not recognizing that the right do it in a way, or many ways that are far more permeating and far more destructive, and like it's
I
too
think that the left
entire.
would be better able to weaponize it against the right if we embraced it. If we said yes, cancel culture is real. But right now, if when we're saying cancel, when we have, I think we have kind of like a mealy mouthed response to it now. We tried out cancel culture is not real, and then that didn't really work, and now we're like hermit crabs scuttling around trying to find a new argument.
It's just like
And I
like
think
when
it's preventing
when
us from using it against the right.
when AOC said, because you
Yep, I did bring it up.
it said like cancel culture doesn't exist, like you don't know, or maybe you do, maybe she was more specific about it. You may like again, because of the fact that this is an amorphous term, she could be like kind of responding to people like Ted Cruz, to people who are fans of Ted Cruz
It
or
was right in
citizens.
the wake of that Harper's uh letter that you mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I sort of understand that response, because again, that Harper's letter, in my opinion, kind of
I was going
framed
to ask, so
things
I'm glad that you're bringing it up.
I think it framed things in a way that made it sound like this is a problem of the left. They talked about problems on campuses, and like, sure, there's problems on campuses, but that is so fucking overblown. It's not even funny. Like there are, I've read the statistics on it. There's nearly 5,000 college campuses in America. It's something like 4,990
Hmm.
in, like, I think it was either the year 2017 or maybe I believe it was actually from 2015 to 2017, there was only a total of something like 90 cases where where things like this occurred, where you had instances where, say, like Ben Shapiro got booed as he was talking. And arguably some of these cases aren't even like, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't take that tactic. I think it's better to, if he's going to be there, to let him say his shit. It like gets him more attention to do that. But they're also using their free speech by, like, protesting him.
Let me ask you this: if the letter brought up the Harper's letter brought up a few examples of right wing cancel culture, would you have been more supportive of it then?
Possibly, if it
So,
really
yeah, it's hard
did
to say in
seem,
the abstract. Yeah,
if it really did seem as though it was kind of really saying this is a problem on both sides. The thing is that I don't think that there is, it also said something like there is a lack of willingness to debate debate topics. Now that's different from cancel culture. That's different
yeah.
from
They didn't use that word though. I
uh
remember reading
they didn't.
Thomas Chatterley Williams specifically making a point about how he avoided that word. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm
I thought
misremembering.
I thought it was sort of an innocuous letter that I don't really understand the response to. If anything, the problem with it, in my opinion, was that it was too vague.
It was extremely vague, and then there's also something to say about, like, when like, on one hand, I get that they want to kind of feel non not non-political, but like nonpartisan, I guess.
Nonpartisan, yeah, nonpartisan,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the fact that they had all of these people who are cancel culture hypocrites, like Bari Weiss,
It's true. It's
like
true.
J.K. Rowling. I
It's true.
mean,
And by here's the biggest mistake they made by not bringing up specific instances. The focus shifted entirely to the signatories of the letter, and it just became about them, and that's where it really went wrong, I think.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I I'd have to look at it again. I've read it a few times. I would say watch you know Vosh's take on it. I thought he
Yeah,
had a
sure.
pretty good take on it, and I was expecting him, because of the fact that every now and then he, like, he does kind of rail against what he thinks of as cancel culture. He, like, I was surprised that he had the take that he,
Yeah.
and
Did you
I
ever read the response to the Harper's letter?
know
Oh,
what
I'll send it to you. You should check. So it was just a letter signed by a bunch of like high profile journalists and stuff that directly responded to it. I'll send it to you so you can read it to uh you know see what you think.
it's
Um
just, I mean, like, the last thing, some of the people involved who wrote it, or no, who signed it, that, again, it's like, it it doesn't seem to be concerned about the people that you're concerned about, like the everyday people
that is one
who
criticism that I think of the letter that I think is false.
oh, really? Okay.
Yes, because Thomas Chatterton Williams has specifically written about what prompted him to write that letter, and it was the things I'm talking about. And the examples that they allude to, not directly enough, they're the type of thing that I am talking about. They're college professors getting fired, or not even college professors, like the adjunct professors or whatever they're called, who like have no job security and are like actually like very exploited workers, and usually are like students, people like that. There's just a lot of high profile examples, enough that I think it was a big mistake to not talk about these, because apparently people don't know about them. Apparently they fly under the radar.
I totally forget like I read some sort of article, and what was it? Actually maybe it was the article by I'm forgetting his name now, but I mentioned him earlier, the one that you didn't like, by Nathan Robinson.
Nathan J. Robinson. Yeah.
I think he talks about the exam. Does he talk about what he believes the examples are?
Yes.
Okay.
And he is for the most part right. There's one. I don't remember if it was his. There was one response that guessed, because he mentioned authors having their book releases canceled, and there was some speculation that not unjustified in my opinion, that they were talking about Woody Allen, but that they were talking about some like high profile cases in the young adult fiction world that is notorious for like weird scandals. I don't know if you follow young adult fiction cancel culture at all, but it's a trip.
Yeah, I remember him alluding to some of that, but it's something that I'm not that familiar with. I want to. I know we've been talking a while. There's one last thing that I want to bring up before, because I'm curious what your take is, because I can see you going either way. I can see you saying like, this is like the
wait. Can I guess? Can I guess what you're going to ask me? You're going to ask me if Hunter Biden's hot. The answer is yes.
Okay, well then we're done. No, I was reading, because I read a whole mess of articles concerning cancel culture, and there was one interesting one that I read, and I can forward it to you. I totally forget the publication. It was actually an online publication that I was not aware of, which is a pretty left-wing publication that is very concerned with unionization and workers' rights in general.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they think that 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 when it comes to cancel culture and people losing their jobs, that there is a certain amount of that people should have in general more job security within their jobs, and that when these cancel culture events occur and someone is getting canceled by mobs of people, that basically they talk about, and I wish I remembered this like just a little more in depth, but they basically outline a like sort of a due process that they think that workers in that situation should have. And
do you know if the publication was the Bellows?
I could tell you right now what it is, if
look it up.
Because I believe that it's in my I bookmarked it. Cancel. So yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. If you, and is that they think that although there is why is nothing coming up when I type in cancel? Oh, because I spelled it cancel. Okay, there it is. One thing that they bring up is that although there is some like, I think they say this, some blame to be put on the left, certainly for engaging in this, that there is no discussion of the bosses who just cave in and go ahead and fire these individuals. And they take three different examples, and they kind of reason, okay, in this case they're all high profile, and they say why in their opinion, if workers, or rather if companies did this sort of thing, here's how it would ideally play out. In this situation, this person wouldn't get fired, and in this situation they would. I won't go that into it because I just don't have a great memory of it.
It sounds like good stuff that I would be up my alley, because one of my principal goals with this topic,
it's called okay. By the way, it's the name of the publication is In These Times, and it's called,
Sure.
if cancel culture is about getting fired, let's cancel at will employment. And
that's an amazing headline. That's an amazing headline. And one of my goals with this topic is to reframe the issue as a workers' rights issue that the left should own and should belong to us, and we should be using it as a cudgel against the right, not the other way around. And absolutely, public enemy number one of the cancel culture movement should be at will employment. This horrible anti-union law foisted upon us by these Koch brother ghouls. So if the article is as good as the headline, then I'm gonna love this article.
Well, I just sent it to your Twitter, so
cool,
read that. I mean, I agree. Say, and yeah, I do think that is kind of like potentially, if used right, what they talk about, a way to safeguard people who are canceled in ways that that are a little sus, or that that just are unjust.
Yes.
So yeah, but
yeah,
yeah, I guess we can wrap things up. I guess we should. It's been a little over 2 hours, so I do want to reiterate one last time. Let's keep our eyes on the prize. Don't forget how the right does it, and I'm not talking about the ways in which they do it that are I mean, yes, the ways in which they do it where they're being kind of like as petty as the left can sometimes be. Those matter because they deny that they do such things. But things like repealing laws or rights for trans people, the injustices that we have in our justice system that overwhelmingly target people of color and other minorities, just there's lots of other shit. Also, I mean, God, I don't want to get way into it, but like I also think that the idea of American exceptionalism can sometimes get people canceled when certain
I gotta say that I think American exceptionalism is pretty far outside the domain of cancel culture.
No, I think that there are people.
Oh, I guess like during like the Iraq War and stuff. Yeah, actually, a lot of people have been canceled by America. I'm proven wrong. It's an all-encompassing topic.
Exactly. There are times, and it's like in the wake of like military maneuvers and stuff like that, where it's very just seen as horrible to criticize foreign policy and stuff like that. There's all these different ways that it primarily is coming from the right that is just
the dang
way
Dixie Chicks
bigger.
got canceled by American exceptionalism.
It's the chicks now, by the way.
Oh, my mistake.
Because the term Dixie is canceled.
Wow. So now the Dixie Chicks have been canceled by both American exceptionalism and political correctness. Oh my God.
They did it themselves. They were like, we don't want to be tied to like because Dixie is very tied to like the Civil War and shit like that, and the Confederacy.
The South. Sure.
So yeah, I mean not just the South, but the Confederacy. So they were like, you know what, we thought it over, and we're the chicks now, which is I think that's pretty cool of them.
Well, I find it to be a little gender non-inclusive. Let's get rid of the chicks.
Maybe they'll who knows, maybe they'll evolve on that as well.
Yeah. So thanks for coming by and talking to me. It was good talk. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
And if you are hearing this, check out Vadim's channel. I'm a fan of it. If I have a favorite video of yours, and I would say I do, it's got to be the Jordan Peterson Pokemon Go episode. I mean, what a great episode! Who would have thought there would be anything more to say about Jordan Peterson? You discover a treasure trove.
I actually I have another treasure trove of Jordan Peterson material that I'm going to unlock pretty soon. Which
that's called a teaser, folks. That's called a teaser.
Yeah. Right. It's not necessarily something that he did, but a bizarre subculture that emerged around him that I don't think a lot of people have paid much attention to.
This is going to be incredible.
Yeah, it involves hip hop. and it's not Zuby. It's not Zuby. it's not Zuby. It's not Zuby saying that he's the Peterson of rap.
This is fantastic. I can't wait for this. I don't know how it's gonna live up to what's in my head right now. Yeah, thanks for coming by. I'm just gonna end the recording because I don't know how long this actually gives you to record. So.